Now, interestingly, there is a quote unquote officially four singles, okay, on the album. Now, the first one was 1492, which I find that wasn't a real single. I know that it was a single released on the internet with the B side. Was it Michelangelo?
Michelangelo, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I don't think that it got any radio airplay necessarily. Then we had "You Can't Count on Me," which we'll talk about when we get to it. That had a video, etc. And then it made the top 40. I think it was of the adult contemporary, I guess. And then "Come Around" and also "When I Dream of Michelangelo," which is funny. The B side ended up being the fourth single, and I guess supposedly both of them got some radio airplay. I didn't hear any of those, and in fact, "You Can't Count on Me," I don't think I heard on the radio. I remember seeing the video on YouTube or whatever, maybe streaming on their website or something. Might have been played. I'm not sure. Just one little fun fact. I like to give a little fun fact. I was just looking today that there is, which I didn't know. Maybe some of you know. Maybe you, Paul, that there is a film Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, a 1960 British film considered one of their it was the 14th greatest British film of all time,
Ooh, 14th.
according to yeah, it's funny, according to the British Film Institute, and
And
it's
there are
about a
14
guy.
tracks on this album.
Yeah,
Coincidence?
I don't think so, and it's about this man who spends all his weekends drinking and partying and having a bunch of affairs too. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Jeff, I'll let you plug the holes into my album overview / history.
Sure. Well, I think several things make this an interesting and kind of different album for the band. Adam talked about how during the Hard Candy tour, he sort of hit a low point in Australia where his grandmother passes away, and within 5 minutes, he gets a second phone call breaking up with his girlfriend at the time. And he was sort of feeling very distant anyway, being that he was in Perth, so far away from sort of anything else. And he just said that for him, this was really a low point in his life. And he kind of hit rock bottom after this and kind of bottomed out. Meanwhile, the band did have a pretty significant hit with Big Yellow Taxi, the kind of re released version of that. Accidentally in Love was a major song for them. And of course, they continued to tour, but for him, he said this was just marked a real low point. He wasn't even sure that they would record another album. He said, I couldn't even imagine doing another album or sort of continuing forward. He sort of felt like his whole life had become music and this band, and that he didn't really have any kind of personal life, and felt just really, really at a low point. However, there was this demo of 1492 that had been recorded for Hard Candy. And he really liked the song. He said, I listened to it over and over and over again and sort of realized that there's an album here. So he called the band. He said, come to New York City and I want to get into a studio right away. This was in June of 2006. So he got Gil Norton to produce, who had done Recovering the Satellites. 1492 was sort of the catalyst for getting into the studio and bringing the band in. Gets the band in and they bang out in a studio for the first time 9 songs. And this was the first time Counting Crows had recorded in a studio. Sort of famously, we've talked about this. They had always rented a house in the Hollywood Hills and, stayed there and sort of made this sort of organic process. This time they're in a studio, and Adam said he couldn't barely even get out of bed at this point. They worked at the Power Station. It's now called the Power Station, which partially it's a famous studio. It's a big studio, but also it was 6 blocks from his apartment. And he said that was about as far as I could get, at this point. So they recorded what is the Saturday Nights side of the album. Come Around was also done during those sessions, and working with Gil Norton. And basically this was going to be the album. So Adam talked about this and said that the meds that he was on, he had gained 70 pounds. He called it his Brian Wilson period. He could barely get out of bed. He was really heavy, really felt bad about things. But he said, I started to sort of think about that possibly there could be a companion piece to this album. And this is where the kind of Sunday mornings idea arose. And he did, as you explained, Eric, started to sort of sift through the internet, and he was just listening to albums that he liked. And he said, I kept seeing Brian Deck's name show up. He had done Modest Mouse and, a bunch of sort of indie albums at this time. So eventually, Adam decided that they would do a second set of songs, sort of a companion piece. And he wanted to do something that was different, this Sunday Mornings concept. He said that he wanted it to be a folk record, but not like an acoustic, unplugged kind of approach to it. He said, if you went back and listened to the great folk albums, like Simon and Garfunkel's one that he mentioned, these albums are rooted in acoustic instruments, but they're not like an unplugged session. They're not like, just a single guitar or something like that. They had all this interesting instrumentation and were very, sort of interesting acoustic albums. And so he also wanted to get away from New York City. They went to Berkeley, to his home. He lived with his parents. He wanted to be in that vibe again and recreate that sort of early, period when he was a musician in Berkeley, kind of struggling. And so they recorded it again in the studio in Berkeley, but he wanted to be there for it. And working with Brian Deck is kind of interesting because Brian Deck has been the producer of every album since. So obviously they really clicked. They had worked up a lot of these Sunday morning songs in Adam's garden in the sort of in his apartment, and working with Brian Deck, who was there. But Brian Deck's been with Counting Crows since. I mean, he produced Somewhere Under Wonderland, and he produced The Butter Miracle. So both parts of The Butter Miracle. So he's really been obviously an important figure in the band ever since this album. As you mentioned, this was also when they were working with this new lineup, but they did, and we'll talk about this, pull some songs from This Desert Life and from Hard Candy. So some of these, so you see Matt Malley appear on this album, you see Ben Mize appear on this album, and some of these songs in some ways were pulled from these last couple of albums of the period. I think so. So I think working in a studio, first of all, and taking that approach gave it a really different feel. Also, this concept of the electric side and the acoustic side was something. Obviously, they've done this on, like, even Across a Wire was in some ways a similar concept. But for the first time, they sort of made this overt. And he said that Geffen hated this concept. They battled him the whole time. They said, this is a terrible idea. You shouldn't do this. They wanted it to just be a blend of these things. They wanted to get rid of some of the songs. Geffen hated 1492, wanted to get rid of that. So he kind of fought with them about the content of the album, the concept of the electric acoustic thing. And then also he really wanted to use the internet in some new ways on this album, distribute the band's music through the internet, give away. I think he probably wanted to give the whole album away. And he fought with Geffen about that too. And he said, Geffen understood what I wanted to do, but there's kind of limited in what they could do. They're a giant corporation owned by other giant corporations. And when you go to the giant corporation and say, we'd like to give away the product, the giant corporation says, that's not what we do. We don't want to give away our product. So he really was fighting with Geffen over a lot of aspects of the album. They eventually sort of capitulated on some level. And he said, sort of gave us permission to release the first single for free and as a download. At the time, it seemed maybe crazy to give away music for free or to make it available to people on streaming. Obviously, now that would be the way to go. But he fought with Geffen a lot over this. And notably, the band, they ended their terms with Geffen at the end of this album. This was the last Geffen album that they did. As I recall, the original contract was a 3+3 option. So they guaranteed to do 3 albums and then they could do more. Adam has never said exactly why it ended. And he said he didn't want to get into it. It was a successful and fruitful relationship for 18 years. But I think Geffen probably dropped them at the end of this album. Partially, it was their first album that didn't go gold or platinum. And although it hit number 3, it was at a time when music sales had gone down a lot. So, number 3. So it was a high charting album for them. But in terms of sales, the music industry had just shifted a lot. It was sort of in between where we are today, where everything is streaming, and the old music business where everything was sold on CD. Yeah. The only other thing I want to mention is that, and we'll get into some of the sort of different tracks and things like that. But this idea of electric side of an album and an acoustic side of an album. Certainly this has been done before, and it'd be fun to do a whole, sometime we'll do a whole podcast on albums that are like that. But I think the really famous one that is worth mentioning, because I'm sure that it inspired this idea, was Bob Dylan's fifth album, Bringing It Back Home, Bringing It All Back Home, which, if you've seen the Bob Dylan movie, if you know Dylan's story, he was an acoustic artist, a folk artist. His first four albums are complete folk albums with just Bob Dylan and an electric guitar, occasionally a harmonica. And I mean, truly stripped down and raw. What's amazing about those albums, if you haven't done the dive into them, you really need to, because imagine making an acoustic album with just you and a guitar and making it actually interesting. Those albums are great. They're varied. They contain like huge hits, some of the biggest political songs of all time, The Times They Are Changing, and songs like that, but also like Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, the greatest breakup song of all time, arguably. So those first four Dylan albums are amazing in how good they are for all acoustic albums. But he wanted to change. He wanted to bring in a band. He wanted to start working with electric musicians. And on his album, Bringing It All Back Home, there was an electric side. Side A is electric and side B is acoustic. And so this is where like Subterranean Homesick Blues is on that, opens that album. It's an incredible Dylan album. And after that, of course, he went full on electric with Highway 61, and the rest is history. But I think that was the first concept album from a rock musician where they had this idea of there's going to be an electric side very clearly and then an acoustic side very clearly. And I think that concept has been repeated by other artists, but here you see Counting Crows sort of working in the tradition of Dylan and doing the same sort of thing. So I think in some ways that makes it interesting. I'll say one more thing, sorry, is that REM wanted to do this same concept with their album Green. Incredible album, one of their great albums of all time. And they wanted to do an electric side and an acoustic side. And originally that was what they were planning to do. What they decided was that the electric songs, which is like Orange Crush, Turn You Inside Out, Pop Song 89, I mean, incredible songs. They thought that those songs were stronger than the acoustic side that they were going to come up with, which is like You Are Everything, The Wrong Child, World Leader, Pretend, also great songs. So eventually they scrapped the concept. They didn't do it. They did mix it up. They mixed in the electric and the acoustic songs. But there have been bands like REM that aspired to do something like that and then ultimately gave up the concept. So that's a little bit of an introduction. We'll talk about the specifics when we get into it, get into the album itself.
Two asides there, Jeff. One could argue that Don't Think Twice, It's All Right is the best breakup song ever, and that would be the correct argument. That would be, whoever's making that argument is right.
I would certainly say so.
Also, acoustic REM is the best REM, and that I will stand. That's a more controversial opinion, and would be a whole side other podcast. But acoustic REM, like if you ever listen like the REM Unplugged, and particularly like the second one, it's so good. I think they're an amazing band, but I think that second REM, like the Unplugged versions, are.
Yeah, you'll get no argument from me on either of those. REM's one of my very favorite bands. I don't know if I could choose between electric and acoustic, but it would be hard to say that Automatic for the People is not their best album, and that's kind of their acoustic album. So, yeah. We got no sound from you, buddy.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Yep. So I have an observation that maybe nobody made, which is that the electric acoustic, they kind of did on Recovering the Satellites, which also has 14 songs. And all the harder songs, except for maybe Recovering the Satellites, are on the first 7. And then the last half has Millers, Horse Dreamers, Monkey, Mercury, Long December, and Walkaways. So, and then I would have went to Geffen and said, that sold well, so stick it, Geffen.
We used Gil Norton, come on.
Yeah, exactly, which also used Gil Norton. One last thing, which I always bring up, which is, and then I have one final observation, then we'll go right into the song rankings, which is that I like to look at the writing credits. I always think it tells a little story of where the album or where the band is at the time. This one, 3 other band members besides Adam get writing credit. So no Bryson again, no Millard, no Jim. But which kind of surprised me. Vickery, Charlie, and Emmy both kind of shared. They all both basically they all got 4 writing credits. I think Charlie got 5, and then I'll talk about when we get to the songs. We'll mention which ones are. But that was kind of interesting that Vickery and Emmy shared because again, that's kind of shows a crossroads, right? Because as we move forward, it ends up Adam and Emmy get more writing credits,
And
and then in the past,
I
Dan did.
think this is the only record with Duritz, Gillingham, Immergluck, which is an interesting triumvirate. And they have, I think
Oh, together,
that is the most common, other than just Adam.
yes.
Duritz, Gillingham, Immergluck is the most common grouping on the
Oh
record,
yeah.
interestingly.
Yep. Now that's true. And then there's the OCD part of me, Jeff, which hates one thing about this album that I always have. And this is the kind of thing that if I would never say to Adam because he'd be like, "What is wrong with you? Who cares?" And that's that he wants to have a Saturday night, Sunday mornings, and but the Saturday side is only 6 and the other side is 8, and then Come Around, which is on the Sunday morning. Like clearly, he just wanted Come Around to be the last song. And it was probably supposed to be the last song of Saturday Nights because it was also a Norton track. And then it would have been exactly 7/7, but he moved it to side 2, saying, "I need to end with Come Around."
Yeah, it's cool, but it's very obviously. I mean,
Yeah,
let's save it for that song. But we
yeah.
could talk a lot about that song and the versions of it. And anyway,
The
But then
other
part
thing
of
on the on the writing is that again, per tradition, Adam writes 100% of the lyrics. So when we're talking
yeah,
about co-writes, it's always a musical co-write.
music, yeah.
Except I noticed that on Los Angeles, he gave music and lyric credit to the other writers, to Ryan Adams and Dave Gibbs. So
Mm, that's
um,
true.
this may be the only Counting Crows album where anyone has a lyric credit other than Adam. I could
Yep.
be wrong, but I don't know of any other song where he's not credited as the sole lyricist.
So, Chris, if it was me and I was on Geffen, I would have said I love the album, but especially when we finally release vinyl, and once that, and then so we got to move. If you're going to keep coming around on Part B, then you got to move one of the other Deck albums or Deck songs to the Saturday Night side. But okay, so that was just me and the 7+7, 6+8. Let's go to the song. So here we go. So the 4 of us, Chris and I, and Jeff and Ryan, and we had Paul come in as a tiebreaker on a couple. And speaking of tiebreakers, it started with a tiebreaker. In fact, actually, well, I'll just say, okay. So we're going to go from 14 to 1. So tied for the quote unquote lowest ranking song in this. And again, this is like my children. I love all of them equally, although, but yeah. Some songs have to be ranked higher than others. So, okay. So tied for 14 or 13 would be Tuesday in Amsterdam and Anyone But You. And both of those were ranked consistently low for most people. Chris had Tuesday in Amsterdam a little higher, medium song, and I had Anyone But You a little higher. And in fact, Tuesday in Amsterdam, I waffled Chris. That definitely jumped up a couple spots for me at one. I think it was maybe the lowest when the album first got released, and now I like it more. And in fact, I'm going to give a little tribute because the tiebreaker going to Paul, and we'll talk to him more about when we get to Anyone with You. He clearly thought Anyone But You was a little better. He thinks that's the best song on the second half of the album. Interesting. So, because most of us had that pretty low, and Paul thought that was the best song in the second half. So let's start with Tuesday in Amsterdam. Does anybody have any comment? Jeff and Ryan had it their lowest again. Chris and I had it a little higher. I'll go with anybody who wants to give a comment.
well, I'll start just a couple things I think is interesting about this. This is a song that dates to about 2004. Adam played it solo on piano not long after it was written, at a show. I believe it's actually in Rotterdam. But there was a very good recording of this that existed. So this song we'd sort of known of for a while. There's an interesting story to it, which is that Adam says that he had just written Accidentally in Love, and this song is the sort of other side to that it's about the relationship in Accidentally in Love in the future, looking backwards at today. um Very Adam Duritz, right? Yeah, it's perfect. It's like, I am gonna remember what this is feeling is like and write a song about that. And I just think it's a beautiful song. I think it's that piano, the way it kind of hangs, I think is really, really lovely. um Incredibly rare song, by the way, live. I believe this is other than Anyone But You, which has never been played live. This is the least played song on the record. But it's, I think, just, I don't know, a beautiful song. That's what kind of got it up there for me. I'm not sure if I connect
Yeah,
super strongly emotionally to it. Maybe it's maybe part of the problem. I had it at number 9. But I just think I don't, it's just a
yeah,
beautiful piece of music. I always like Adam on a piano by himself. There's just something about it that I believe, I'm sure Charlie probably plays it, but again, I always
yeah.
think of the original version, which was
Yeah,
Adam on piano. Yeah.
that's a Charlie. Yeah, yeah. It's funny, Jeff. We didn't say it yet. Might as well say it now. That online, and I can put the link. The same guy, Chris, that records all the Counting Crows concerts and stuff. Now I'm forgetting his name. The photographer. Uh, yeah, or SPG Studios. One of that group. There's like 5 recordings of them recording in the studio. All of them great. Online, and one of them was Tuesday in Amsterdam. And Jeff, you mentioned, actually, I don't know if it was on or off the record, about a month ago, you said, geez, they don't play much from this, kind of forgotten by the Crows in concert live nowadays. Yeah. And I went and checked, and not only did Chris say it's true, but they've actually played Somewhere Under Wonderland, like songs from that 50% more than any song from here, despite being released about a decade later. So, and by the way, Butter Miracle has almost caught up to Saturday Night Sunday Morning. So what you say is true on that. As I do want to give one shout out. Now, I never super connected to this as much. I've seen some people online say that this might have to do with Gemma Hayes. Is that how you pronounce right at the time? I'm not sure if they ever dated or if they were friends.
I actually don't think, I hate to speculate on this stuff. I don't think so. I think this is later based on the sort of timings, because I think this is.
Yeah, I think part of that was just because there's a couple references, despite being a Tuesday in Amsterdam, a couple references to Ireland. So maybe that's why some people have said that. I never felt that way either. But I do want to note that people that like the recurring themes of Adam Duritz in his lyrics get a lot of it here. Which is gray is mentioned, and the winter, so you can think of Long December. I won't comment about a woman being a bareback rider. I'll try to move on from that. But then we get carnival in the again about being strung on a wire. We got memory in there, fading in the air, and then girl in the wire, tumbling, and so I have to admit, part of the reason maybe it moved up another spot is that I was in Dublin for months a couple of years ago. I didn't know what Stephen's Green was 10 years ago, and I guess it's basically the Central Park of Dublin. At least I hope I'm not, which I just didn't know. And then the only other thing I'll say about it is I do think I do think that the chorus isn't maybe the best. I can see maybe that's why some people don't love it, to come back to me. But I do think the verse of when everything's over and everything's clear, when everyone's older and no one is here, given that this is the 5th album of the Crows and Adam was about 45 at the time, that hits to me a lot, even now, right? Because I'm 20 years older now than when the album first got released. So I don't know if Jeff or Ryan, you have any thoughts?
Well, the only thing I was going to add is that I think Accidentally in Love, the story of that song is that Adam had basically written the song by himself and then felt like he wanted the band to come in and help him out. And so they finished that song in a hotel room in Amsterdam. Like, that's when the band came in and joined him. And I think, Chris, that you might have said this before. I think this song was written that same week when he was in Amsterdam. This was an Adam solo, right? But I think that this was written right at the same time that Accidentally in Love was finished. And so it would make sense that there's a connection between the two because they were being written basically at the same time.
Brian, it's okay if you didn't have any thoughts on Tuesday, or do you?
Yeah, this one, I mean, it's like you were saying about loving all your children. I mean, there are no skips on this album for me. I will listen all the way through to this one, this whole record, and just love it. But as I sat down to do this thought exercise, it just pretty quickly and naturally settled to the bottom for me. Again, not that I don't like the song; it is a beautiful song, as everybody's detailed. But yeah, it just didn't. It just isn't above any of the others on this record for me.
Yeah, makes sense. Paul, so you had Anyone But You, because we're going to move to that song now, number 13 in the official rankings that can never be changed. But you had Anyone But You as the favorite song on the second half. Any thoughts or about why that
Well,
maybe
I
stood out
just
to you?
felt I could relate to it. I felt it got a nice tune to it, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I chose it.
Makes sense. I don't have much to say except that I always thought this was. I had it as so Anyone But You. Everyone had it their bottom three. I had it actually. Kind of in the middle, I guess. Well, 11. So okay, that was anyway 4 or 5 on my list. I will say though, I think I said this once on the podcast before. This was the song because I like texted Jeff and Chris the other day. Hey, I'm entering the plane and what was it? Accidentally in Love was playing or Big Yellow Taxi. I forget one of the Accidentally in Love, I think. But this was the strangest one I've heard in a public place, which was like at a supermarket. It was like Friday night, like 10:30 at night at some big supermarket in Madison,
Random.
Wisconsin, and they were playing Anyone But You on the Muzak or whatever. And I'm like, hey, the Crows, they still got it.
There was a guy
and
DJing in the back of the store who was not doing okay. He
There
was
was
having
an
the worst.
employee
He's just
going
like,
through
no, we're
something.
playing this whole record. I'm
Right.
gonna cry here over some potatoes. And
yeah, I don't have much to. I just think it's an underrated, and I want to hear this song live. And if I get a chance, I do want to. I almost don't want to say it on the podcast in case anyone's listening, but I did want to ask, like, if Emmy and Adam, I have a feeling they might not know, like, what song do we think on all of your major albums that you've never played? And we think that this is the only song they've never played live from any of the major albums.
of the original rights. Yeah, I think it's in any way not even a piece of it, right? It's not even like Miller's Angels. I think only got
Yeah,
played like once, but obviously they've used chunks of it and different things. And
yeah.
it's a really interesting song. The intro really reminded me of Catapult. Um, and then there's some like imagery of sinking, which made me kind of think of Rain King. I like the harmonies on it a lot. Like I think the singing on it is really good, and it has that. Um, you talk about like interestingly, this is not on the Gil Norton side of the record, but it has the sort of Beatlesy energy that some of Recovering the Satellites has, where the sort of way they're layering harmonies and sounds um makes me think of again the way those guys go towards the Beatles. Again, I think I wonder if like part of the reason I don't have it as high is because it's never been played live. And so my relationship to it is less in a certain way than some of these other songs. It just doesn't the band didn't kind of think to bring it out, which I don't know. It's interesting to me that this one is the least. And again, I mean, on a Tuesday in Amsterdam has only been played 8 times, right? So this is not it's not exactly big hit territory, but
Yeah,
also
more than this one.
fun
Yeah.
fact, according to Setlist.fm, I've been at 1/4 of the times they played on a Tuesday in Amsterdam long ago.
That's
One
pretty
quarter,
good.
twice in 2008.
Now Jeff is going to disagree with me because I know he loved the song, and I guess Chris wouldn't. There's like 3 or 4 songs in here that I think are almost like spiritual successor to other songs, and I actually feel this is a spiritual successor to Good Time. I know it doesn't maybe have the bluesy musically thing, but this is a song I could, if there was a video, I can almost like picture them just like hanging out in a lounge playing. And I felt that way about Good Time, like almost like I don't know. And it still has some Duritz lyrics like I'm almost perfect some of the time. I mean, that is definitely, at least in my opinion, a Duritz 2008 lyric. So anybody else, any comments on this song? If not, we'll move on to the number 12 song.
Well, I was just going to add one thing is that the quote unquote brass on this song was actually played by Adam on a synthesizer. It wasn't obviously real horns.
Oh,
And then also, fun fact about this album: Adam does not play any piano on this album, which was another first. It's all Harley, which is quite interesting because Adam plays on like Mrs. Potter's Lullaby and some of your favorite Counting Crows songs. He's the guy on piano, and on this album, I think this had to be the first time he didn't touch a piano the whole time he was in the studio. So that's interesting too. I have no idea if that has anything to do with why they might play or not play these songs, but it's a different another way that this album they kind of approached it differently than the previous 4.
okay. So we will move. There's going to be 4 tiers of songs. So this is coming up number 12 on the list. So it's the last song of the quote unquote bottom quadrant, I guess. There's 3 songs that consistently lower than the other ones. And the other one being number 12, Sunday Morning. Officially, what is it, on almost any Sunday morning. Oh, by the way, Jeff, we didn't even mention that Saturday Night Sunday Mornings has a reference to what? There's 2 Saturday references, but they're on the Sunday morning side. Almost any Sunday morning is on this. Oh, sorry, the Saturday. Oh no, am I getting that wrong now?
There's Sundays is on
Oh, Sundays is on the Saturday morning side, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, but he doesn't
And then
believe in Sundays, and Saturday nights
that's
doesn't
right.
believe in Sundays.
That's why.
And almost any Sunday morning is about going out on Saturday night and feeling pretty crappy on Sunday morning.
And then one of the bonus track references is one of the bonus tracks is does it have a Saturday? Is a Saturday or a Sunday? It's a Saturday, right? Oh, now I'm forgetting.
Sunday morning LA.
Sunday morning LA.
Sunday morning LA, right? So there's 3 Sundays, not as many Saturdays.
Yeah, right. It's
It's a weekend record, although other than on a Tuesday in Amsterdam long ago, which is on a Tuesday.
We're here doing. We could only do this podcast on a Sunday. By the way,
We are doing this
That's
on
true.
a Sunday.
contractually obligated.
Yeah,
I had this song the
I
highest.
went out to
Nobody
a
had
club until 6 a.m. last night just to get ready for this.
Just in Milan,
The
right?
emotional position, you know.
So I had the song the highest. I don't really have too much to say about it, though. I think I could see why people have it lower. I just think for this kind of, I guess, acoustic type of song, I just think it's great. To me, it's like the ultimate hangover depression song of regret. That if you're like you have that bad headache and you can't get out of your bed and you're trying to think about the hangover from whatever happened during Cowboys or 1492 or whatever you decided to do, that you might want to play on almost any Sunday morning. And I kind of think this is the song I think of when I see the album cover, right, of the raindrops and the Empire State Building. To me, that's right. There we go. Paul's got it on video. To me, that's from Sunday morning, waking up at 2:00 in the afternoon and taking a photo, and that's what it looks like. But anyway, I really like the song. It just is. So what did I have it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had it like number 9. I just think there's 8 better songs. So yeah. Anybody else comments on this song?
I mean, again, it's a lovely song. I do think in some ways this does fit with the emotional energy of Saturday more. Saturday,
Yes.
that it's sort of an interesting in that regard, in that it in the sort of arc of the record. I know Adam sort of explained it as sort of the record has an arc, but it's not clean because the whole idea is that like falling and recovery is not a clean process. But just energy wise, it sort of hit me there. It is an interesting. It's an interesting. They played this again very very few times, 21 total, but a couple times. And although one of them is clearly wrong, I was actually looking at. I'm like, that's a weird set list. And I'm like, oh, this is that thing where people put fake set lists on setlist.fm.
Dream set list.
The interesting thing, one of the last times they played this in 2008, and the last time they played on Tuesday in Amsterdam, I actually listened to this morning. They played this whole record, other than Anyone But You, at a show on their tour in 2008. This was a show at a casino somewhere in Minnesota, which is the ballsiest thing I think I've ever seen a band do. They went out, played the entire record to a room of people in a casino, then closed the main set with Long December and encored with Mr. Jones. And it's just like, what a wild and amazing thing to do. And that's why it's one of the reasons I love 2008 as a period for the band. They were just like coming up with different ways to do things constantly. And that is like, again, just one of the ballsiest things I've ever heard of, and amazing. Bravo.
Yeah. And those 2008 shows are amazing. I mean, you can see many of them online. One thing, and I guess I forgot to mention this in the history, was that Adam kind of decided that he wanted to get in really good shape again. And so he had gained all this weight from his medications, had this kind of Brian Wilson period, as he described it, where he didn't get out of bed for months. But then he started boxing and running and getting, he got into really good shape. If you look at the shows from 2008, he looks amazing. and those shows are really, some of their most powerful shows, I think. And this material, which you don't get to see very often, it was really showcased a lot during that time. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that the song Sunday Morning Coming Down, I think we have to talk about that at least a little bit when we talk about this Sunday morning concept, because Sunday Morning Coming Down, if you don't know, is one of the greatest country songs ever written. It was written by Chris Christopherson and made famous by Johnny Cash. I think it was 1969. It's been around a long time. But the opening line of that song could have been written by Adam Duritz. It's, well, I woke up on Sunday morning with no way to hold my head that didn't hurt, which is, that's an incredible line, one of the greatest opening lines of a song. And also a line that I think could have been written by Adam Duritz. And so I think that when you're talking about Sunday Morning Coming Down, it really is about this idea of waking up on Sunday morning and feeling kind of hungover. Adam said the Sunday morning side of this album was not really about redemption or like finding himself. It was about, what happens after everything has fallen apart. And so I think that song, somehow must have been somewhere, in there in his wheelhouse when he was sort of thinking about what this album would mean. So somewhere in this show, I felt like we needed to mention Sunday Morning Coming Down. If you haven't heard it, go listen to that song. It's an amazing performance by Johnny Cash.
And before we get to quad 3, I'll at least I'll plug when you were talking about the performances at this time. We mentioned this before, Chris, on the show, but on the internet, the interwebs, on YouTube is basically the entire album except for a few songs missing, the 2008 soundstage in Chicago, and I think it's an amazing performance. I'm glad it's still there. I watch it every couple of months, I have to be honest, because you just don't see those songs live, and it's so good. Yeah. And then I do have to say, for anybody, and forget about the drinking part, but for anybody which is all of us, that goes to bed and then you kind of wake up in the morning and whatever the problem is in your life is still there, and you almost for a second think it's going to be better when you wake up, but it's not. That line, but it all keeps coming back in the morning, always kind of hits me a bit. So, okay. Let's move to the third quad. So this is quite a gap in our rankings between number 12 and number 11, which was ironic because they both deal with Sunday, and the song would be Sundays, which we all kind of placed moderate to low, except for Ryan had this as his sixth highest. So let's start with Ryan, who ranked Sundays high.
I've always loved this song. It just hit with me right away. I definitely, when I got through with this list, which is, it's so fun to get to do this with you guys, but it was also kind of the unexpected bonus was like, I've never really done this for myself. Like, oh, how would I rank the songs on this album? And for me, it became very clear that with a couple of exceptions, I really like the Saturday night side of this album more than the Sunday morning. Not that I don't like the Sunday morning side. I mean, on almost any Sunday morning that we were just talking about is a just absolutely beautiful song. But yeah, Sundays, it's got a groove to it for me. I just enjoy it. It's just a fun song. I don't think I've ever heard them perform it in I don't know how many couple dozen shows I've been to over the course of my Counting Crows concert career. But yeah, I don't necessarily have anything specific to point to with this other than I thought it fits really well with this more upbeat Saturday night side. And I've just always enjoyed this song. So yeah, it's that's probably the most I can say about it.
The only thing I'll add, that I'll move along. I had this. Did I have this the lowest? No, Chris and I had it both fairly low. This is one that also moved up for me. I probably would have had it second or third. Yeah, this and Tuesday in Amsterdam moved up the most since the album got released. The other ones kind of stayed the same over 20 years. I just thought that it was, I don't know, a better song than I realized when I first heard it. I do want to note, though, that Kyle Meredith, who was on 4 episodes ago, that when he had Adam on recently, one reason, as I said, I loved him on is he got into a couple deep divey things, including bringing up this album. and basically saying, "Oh, you don't play this album enough," and kind of like we said, you don't play it a lot anymore. The only kind of song that came up specifically, Adam randomly mentioned Sundays and said, "Oh, I'd love to play Sundays more or sing Sundays more, but I can't. I don't do this one because I can't hit the high notes as much." And I guess it's at the end of the song he's saying he can't hit that or he doesn't want to or it's strange. So that was it was random because I thought he might bring up Insignificant or Hanging Tree, one of the harder ones, but he brought up this one. So Chris, any thoughts on Sundays?
Yeah, I will also say generally in ranking this, it's interesting to me that as we're hitting these tiers, in part because I really struggled to rank this record. I think I had this one 12th, but I also don't think it's any really worse than on almost. I mean, it's like I found this record was very consistent in that I liked sort of every second of it. There were no skips, but at the same time, there weren't a couple of songs where I was like, that's the one. So it was kind of an interesting experience in that regard. This was kind of one that's I don't know, I've always liked it, and it just hasn't like hit me as hard. I think it's a tricky song in concert too, just because I think it has a unique kind of tempo to it that I'm not sure it's neither very slow nor very it kind of sits in sort of a weird middle. But it's an interesting song. This is one, by the way, that I'll note goes back to This Desert Life. This was originally from those sessions. Producer credits go to David Lowery and Dennis Herring. So it's interesting because you can hear that sort of jangle and how it might fit into sonically This Desert Life record.
Yeah, if I remember, David only kind of half remembered recording it. I mean, he did, but kind of. But I was just about to say, Jeff, maybe you were going to say the same thing, that at least you can feel it, that it could fit in The Desert Life. Unlike 1492, I cannot believe that they recorded that as part of the Hard Candy outtakes. That I do not get, because the whole thing of Hard Candy was like these pop songs, like Beatlesque kind of, and 1492 is the most unpoppy probably of all of the Counting Crows songs ever. But Jeff, any comments about Sundays?
Yeah, I love this one too. Like Ryan, I think that I like the Saturday nights part of this album better than the Sunday mornings part of the album. And like Chris, I had a really hard time ranking the songs because, with the exception of the first three that we talked about, I really, really like every song on this album a lot. And Sundays is high for me. I think one of the reasons I've always liked it is that it does remind me of This Desert Life. It was, produced from in that same studio with that same band. We got Matt Malley, my guy on bass. I'm a big Matt Malley fan. I think he always I love his bass playing. And this is the one track on this album that he's actually on this track. Interestingly, though, Ben Mize and Jim both play drums on this track. So who knows what sort of studio wizardry came together to have both of those guys on this album, both playing drums. But yeah, I love Sundays. I mean, I guess I had other songs that I liked better, but this for me is a big thumbs up. It's definitely not a skip song. I love it. I think it's great.
You know what's interesting about that, Jeff? It makes me wonder, like, if Sundays was on The Desert Life, which sold a lot more albums, like, would it be a concert, not a mainstay, but would it be played as often as, like, I Wish I Was a Girl? Right? I don't think it's probably more poppy than Wish I Was a Girl. I kind of think it would be played more if it was released with that. But
I think they should have put this on that album instead of Kid Things. I really do. I think that this is so much stronger.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And if you're going to have a hidden track, like this one would have been a great hidden track on there.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I would like to see part of the regular tracks, but I get what you're saying. Definitely more people would know about it for sure. So next on the list is Not Surprising. And the reason I'm saying Not Surprising is because I think there's a couple songs on here which can be like grouped with each other. And one of them for sure, because they stand out on the Saturday morning side, is Sundays and Los Angeles. And they were basically got similar rankings. Which one's first? Right. Los Angeles first, then Sundays. All of us had this in the middle. Oh, I had it second lowest, I have to say. The rest of you had it medium. So let's get in. I just don't, love it. But who had it the highest? We'll give them first. Chris, you had it as your number 6.
I kind of just love the energy of this song. The more I listen to the lyrics, it's kind of an odd song. It's kind of you can sort of hear in the lyrics, one of the things that struck me when I read Jeff's book, Jeff kind of does a lot of work in bringing a lot of the reviews and the way people are talking about Adam, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s. And you can kind of hear in this song sort of Adam's reaction to the way he was getting spoken about. You see me, if you see me on the movie screen or with a if you see me with a picture in a magazine. Sorry, I'm blowing the lyrics here, but it's it's kind of a sort of a snide song, but it's also super fun. It's essentially about him and Ryan Adams and Dave Gibbs going out and getting drunk in L.A. That's why the sort of the structure of the song, each of them has a verse, right, in terms of the writing credits. Ryan's is the first one. He comes from Nashville. Adams is San Francisco's the second verse. The bridge is Dave Gibbs from Boston. And I don't know, there's just something charming about the sort of the hook to this song that I've just always really liked. Even if sort of I can't sort of relate to it in a certain way. It's and I also I do, as a New Yorker, I have also gone walking in Los Angeles, and it's a pretty weird thing to do. The songwriter Jesse Malin always talks about, like, as a New Yorker, he would go walking in Los Angeles and people thought he was a prostitute, because it's just like, who goes walking?
Missing persons,
but and Adam is right. It is really good place to find yourself a taco.
That's
I
true.
actually, once, the first time I went to LA, Ryan Adams had written a thing about the best burrito, his favorite burrito or something in LA. It was delicious. Los Burritos in Hollywood. If you're staying at the Roosevelt, which you should, because that's a pretty fun old LA. Go hit Los Burritos if it's still there. It's been a long time since I've been to LA.
Oh yeah, I mean, the LA people like to think they have great food, but compared to New York, not really, except for the Mexican food, of course. That the New York can't touch.
New York is also a really good place to find yourself a taco as well. I will say, by the way, the fun thing about this song, there is a version that exists that I think is from the Hard Candy sessions that someone had sent me sometime in 2007 that I found this morning when I was like going through stuff, that is like a full minute longer. And it's and all of that minute is in the back half of the song after Adam says street walking. He says street walking a few more times, and then he talks about having a margarita and a vodka tonic and some champagne and maybe grabbing something from behind the bar. And he ends it with a really good place to find yourself a taco. So that's a fun sort of thing that exists somewhere in the internet land. I don't know. I'm like literally one of those things where I'm like, I found it on an old hard drive. I'm like, someone must have sent this to me. I don't know. But anyway, I like the song, and I see it at number 6. But again, I understand why someone might have had it at number 12. There's what's between 6 and 12 is all kind of really good.
Yeah, or 13 in my case. Paul, I forgot to mention, though, I forgot how high you had Sundays. So again, these are kind of together. I still put Los Angeles as a slightly higher ranking. Do you have any thoughts on Sundays? Do you remember that one? Not necessarily. Okay.
Not necessarily. No.
Okay. I just remember you saying that you thought that was actually one of the better, catchier songs from the album. Anybody other thoughts?
I can certainly say that I find Saturday Nights more catchy and uplifting and easy to listen to. Whilst Sunday mornings, you need to dedicate time and look into the lyrics and so on.
Yeah, I mean, and the all 3 songs from Quadrant 4 or whatever were from Sunday Morning, so that kind of I definitely noticed that theme when people were ranking.
But I think it's part of the thing that works with this song is its placement on the record, right? Coming after like Hanging Tree in 1492, it is much lighter, and it's sort of a breath of fresh air in that moment where you're like, oh, okay, now we're gonna go. Okay, I know things are real bad, but we're gonna go try and make some friends and have some tacos. Feels like a nice sentiment at that point in the record.
Jeff, any comments on Los Angeles, different from Goodnight LA?
Yeah, quite different.
We have LA and then Goodnight LA, right? So.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, I mean, I like this song a lot too. I think the only thing I would add is this was, as we've mentioned, an outtake from Hard Candy, but it seems like it was re-recorded for Los Angeles. At least partially, but Ben Mize is on drums, but you have Millard on bass. I think Millard actually does a great job on the bass here. And the only thing I would add is I think that whole ending where Adam is talking about going street walking and all that kind of stuff, I think to me that was clearly influenced by the Rolling Stones. You can really hear him. He's kind of doing a Mick Jagger at the end of that song. And I think you really hear I think actually you hear a lot of influence of Rolling Stones on this album. And I think that particular part where Adam is kind of talking at the end of Los Angeles, to me, it's like I think he's even said this in interviews, but he's clearly doing a Mick Jagger at the end of that. And so I like it too. I think it's a fun song. I had it ranked number 9, but again, the rankings on this album, like I just like most of the songs, and so it's a bit arbitrary to have it at 9. But yeah, another winner in my book for sure.
Ryan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, this one. It's funny you said that this and Sundays. I had Sundays 6 and this 7, and really I love them both. The reason that I gave the nod to Sundays over this is I actually don't like that very end of the song where about it's a really good place to find yourself a taco. I don't know, for some reason it just kind of pulled me out of it for whatever reason. So but I love the rest of the song so much. I love the harmonies throughout this song are great. I mean, I live in San Francisco, so certainly Adam's San Francisco verse hits extra hard for me. And yeah, it's got a great kind of, I think it was Jeff that said it's got a great vibe to it. Which I know is not like a scientific term or analysis for music, but yeah, I've always loved this song minus the last 5 seconds.
Despite me putting it on the second lowest, the Hollywood show, The Troubadour, I was hoping this would bust out. Like, either Elvis in Hollywood or Los Angeles. I thought it would have been a fun, song to play. Maybe someday they will throw a
not played since 2018. Right now.
Yeah.
Apparently I was the last one for some reason.
Tragic.
Yeah.
Have not been played in a long time. Okay, so 2 more for quadrant 3 and until we get to our halftime. Here we go. So a song next up on the list, number 9, a song that is played quite a bit. And the first song in here that is played frequently in concert, which then kind of surprises me. The person that had this highest on the list was Jeff, lowest Ryan, Chris and I in the middle. Ironic because we both lived in New York City. This is Washington Square. Let's start with, who did I say had a high? Jeff, let's go with you.
Highest. Yeah, number 6 for me. I think partially I love this song. I think this is the song that to me succeeds where some of those other songs like On a Tuesday and Amsterdam and whatnot don't quite make it. I think Washington Square achieves what Adam was going for with the Sunday Mornings album. For me, I think it's just a beautiful song. I think more than anything, what I would say is this is a song that I didn't really appreciate until I saw them do it live. And obviously they do it live a lot. But when the first time I saw them do this song live, that's where I went, oh, okay. Now I was on board from that moment on. I got it as soon as I saw them do it live and realized, I don't know, whatever it was that they bring to this song. Seeing them do it live sort of solidified it for me. So I think this is one of the better songs on Sunday Mornings. I love how sort of quiet it is and yet very powerful too. And so, yeah, I just think it's a real achievement on this album. I think it stands out on that Sunday Morning side as being one of the better, like very kind of almost ballad or very slow songs. Not every song on Sunday Mornings is like a ballad or a slow song, but of the.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm just, even though I had it I had it basically the same as you. I had it one spot down. I agree with every single. I just agree with you what you say. I guess everything here up. I guess the top 7 songs. Yeah, so I had this top 7. I think are all kind of quote unquote perfect. Just some are better than the others. And so, I think it's great. Chris, isn't this the one where, what is it, that Jim plays on the book a little bit, right?
No, he plays, in this one, he plays this like one big drum kind of thing.
Oh,
We'll get to the book one later.
Right. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. But no, but so yeah, it is an interesting. I really love in this song. I really love the harmonica solo. I think Charlie's
Oh yeah.
always kind of love hearing
Yep.
that. I kind of wonder, as I was ranking this. I mean, I really like the song. I used to live near there. I love Washington Square.
So do I.
I wonder if in relative terms, if this song has almost like suffered as a New Yorker. They play this song a lot in the New York area because Adam always talks about it. It's a song about leaving home. It's a song about coming home. It's a song about my home, Washington Square. But the fact that I just did that off the top of my head, I've seen him say that a lot, and I like the song, but I wonder if relative to some of the other ones that are it feel fresher to me, if this one just and I didn't have it poor. I mean, I think I had it ninth. It's a great song. I just didn't. Maybe I've just sort of emotionally. I don't know.
Oh yeah. No, the lyrics are great. I'm not even going to dissect them. We'll do that another show. Ryan, we'll go to you.
Yeah, this one, I mean, I will kind of echo Chris a little bit. Like I do love this song. I think I had it in terms of the Sunday morning side of things. This was, let's see, I guess number 4 on, but really number 3 because one of them's Come Around, which I have higher than this in terms of the Sunday morning side.
Yeah.
But I would say, and it's two things. One, I think it is the perfect way to open the Sunday morning side after you've just gotten through. Cowboys was the song before this.
Yep.
It's a great flip to side B, if you will. And then the other thing I would add, again, kind of, I'm not sure if this is exactly what you were saying, Chris, but I love this album so much. I don't want to hear this song in concert anymore because I want to hear other songs from this album. Like, it's nothing against Washington Square at all. It's just like, okay, if I'm going to get 1, maybe 2 Saturday nights and Sunday morning songs per show, can one of them not be this one, please? Like, I'd just love to hear some of the other stuff that I haven't heard because I've definitely, I'm not as quite as meticulous about my Setlist FM history as you guys, but I know I've heard this song played live more times than I can count at this point. So so I kind of have it's a beautiful song. I love it, but in concert, I'm kind of done with it. But on the album, it's beautiful.
Yeah, this is the most played song on this record, almost 300 times. And it's 100 more than the closest. The net, which is Michelangelo is number 2. But so it's really, in terms of songs from this record they've played, it's a lot more than the others. Like, we're not hallucinating that, apparently. Because it was for a long time they opened a lot of encores with that song. Again, it's a great song. It's just, I think, again, there's relative to some of the other ones, it has sort of an outsized, because it's not like it was the hit or something like that, and they feel they have to play it for whatever reason. This song they've gone back to just significantly more than the rest of the record.
Yep.